Is a GLP-1 worth the cost? You might not need a raise to afford your GLP-1. You might just need a reality check. That's what I needed. If you're new here, I'm Megan. I've lost 125 pounds using compounded tirzepatide and a whole lot of hard work. I know what it's like firsthand to look at these medications and think there is no way I can afford that. But when I really sat down and looked at what I was spending before I started this journey, the numbers told a very interesting story. I started in August 2023, weighing 243 pounds. Before I started on this journey, I did not even consider myself obese. I was just moving through my everyday life in the world that I knew. I didn't really think that my weight was a problem until it became a problem. Looking back in hindsight, I can see that I was a fast food addict. At the time, I never realized that and I never would have called myself that, but now it's so clear to me that there was something so messed up inside of me. When I finally took a look at my habits honestly and started talking to other people in this GLP-1 community and realizing that this is not a problem that is unique to only me, but was a problem that I think other people have had, I started to realize that I really was what I would consider an addict. I was eating out 5 to 7 days a week, often multiple times a day. Drive-thrus, takeout, family dinners, ice cream with my kids, you name it, any excuse I had to eat outside the house, I was doing it. Looking way back in my history, I can see that some of those habits started really early and they just didn't become a problem until later in my life. But over the years, I just started eating out more and using that experience of getting fast food as a coping mechanism and a comfort to myself. It didn't happen overnight. It really happened slowly, one tired morning at a time, one busy evening, until eating out was just part of my identity. Looking back, I can see that I probably had what would be considered binge eating disorder as well. I was never diagnosed with it, but I was definitely eating more than my body needed to eat, and I was eating not for hunger and for emotional reasons and reasons that were completely out of my control. I used food to cope, to numb, to celebrate, to treat myself. And because I never considered that I had a problem, I didn't know that there were solutions out there for somebody like me. So the first step wasn't starting a medication for me, it was admitting that I had a problem. Now, maybe you can't relate to my experience of being a fast food addict. Maybe your extra calories look different. Maybe it is late night snacks after everyone goes to bed, hiding in the pantry, eating a whole box of cookies. Maybe it's sugar and desserts and eating a whole pan of brownies. Maybe it's eating healthy, but just eating super-sized portions. Whatever form it takes, those of us who are living with obesity are consuming more energy than our bodies need. And here's the truth. None of that is our fault. Obesity is a disease. It's a chronic disease and not a failure of willpower. There are so many mechanisms in the brain and the body that make it incredibly hard to regulate appetite and weight. Conditions like type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, PCOS can cause our bodies to store fuel as fat even when we're eating normally. And for many of us, there are brain-based factors, dopamine, reward systems, hunger hormones, that drive us to eat more than we need. Those causes are real, but those behaviors still have a cost. Every extra bite, every binge, every dessert used to numb for a moment, it all adds up. Not just in calories, but in cold, hard cash. When I finally added it all up and saw how much my habits were costing me financially, physically, emotionally, that's when I realized I could afford a GLP-1. I just had to stop funding the problem long enough to invest in the solution. So today, I want to talk honestly about the cost of being on a GLP-1 medication. Not just the price tag, but how to decide if it's really worth it for you. Because for many of us, it's not about whether we can afford the medication. It's about being honest about whether we can afford not to. Before we dive into the numbers, let's talk about what a GLP-1 actually does. GLP-1 stands for glucagon glucagon-like peptide. It's a hormone your body naturally produces. It helps regulate blood sugar, slows digestion, and tells your brain that you're full. Some of us, unfortunately, don't produce enough of this hormone, and that's where these GLP-1 medications can come in. So we have GLP-1 medications like semaglutide, which is the brand name of Ozempic or Wegovy, or tirzepatide, which has a little extra boost to it, which has the brand names of Mounjaro or Zepbound. When you take one of these GLP-1 medications, it mimics that natural hormone in your body. So many of us who are suffering from obesity have things that are out of whack in our body. Our brains are not connected to our stomachs in the way that a normal person experiences the act of eating food. And so when we take this GLP-1, we are more like normal people. Our brain slows down. The food noise quiets. You don't feel that constant pull to food, and you finally get space to think before you eat. For me, that changed everything. Having a GLP-1 in my brain is what allowed me to slow down the process of my eyes seeing food or a place with food and putting the food in my mouth. Before, I had an almost robotic, automatic response to food. I had certain triggers. It would be a certain route home where I knew there was a McDonald's, and somehow my car would automatically turn into the McDonald's even though I wasn't hungry, I didn't need food. It was an automatic response that I had no control over. I could be completely satisfied with the lunch that I ate, and when I went to wash my kids' dishes, I would finish all the food on their plate. Not because I was hungry or the food looked good. It might have had slobber on it, and I still ate it. Again, it was a robotic, automatic response, and my brain did not have enough time to think about that before the food was already in my mouth. I love donuts, and I could down many donuts before my brain caught up and said, this many donuts is not going to make you feel good later. Now that I have a GLP-1 in my brain working on all of these processes, I have enough time to think rationally about food. I can think, am I hungry? Do I like this food and do I want to eat it? Does this food look good to me? Is this food good for me? Is it going to make me feel good and help me reach my goals? All of these questions that I'm asking myself internally that are affecting my behavior around food were completely impossible before I had a GLP-1 on board. Now, a GLP-1 didn't give me any new information. I know what it means to eat healthy. I knew all about the food pyramid in second grade. I did Weight Watchers for many years and counted points. So what the GLP-1 does is it allows me to use the information that I already know and put it into practice. That's why these medications can be so life-changing. They don't do the work for you. They make it possible for you to finally do the work. Unfortunately, my health insurance doesn't cover any weight loss medications. So I was faced with a choice to either pay over $1,000 a month for a name brand medication or go with a compounded version that is less expensive, which is what I did. When I started on compounded tirzepatide almost 2.5 years ago, it was pretty common for places to charge a smaller amount for lower doses of tirzepatide and then increase the cost as your dose went up. I feel like now there are a lot of places that are just doing flat fee pricing and charging the same amount across the board, which might mean that you're paying more upfront than you used to. But seeing as though most people are spending more time at higher doses, it actually evens out, and I think this is probably a good thing for us. So from August 2023, when I weighed 243 pounds, to October of 2024, when I reached the final weight that I have been maintaining for over a year now, 118 pounds. In that 15 months, I lost 125 pounds. I spent $4,810 on my compound tirzepatide prescriptions. That is about $320 a month on average. On top of the actual medication, I invested myself in a lot of other ways. I have worked out with my Tonal home gym from the very beginning of my weight loss journey. I've used it for strength training anywhere from 2 to 6 days a week, depending on where I was in my journey. For my Tonal membership, I spent about $1,000. Now, we already had the Tonal, so I'm not including that in my cost breakdown here, but we did pay the monthly membership for it, which is about $65 a month. In addition to that, I did Pilates classes. I spent about $1,500 on Pilates classes. I started out doing Pilates when I was probably about 30 pounds down and feeling like I was ready to start moving my body. I really enjoyed Pilates because my body was changing in a physical way so fast, and Pilates really helped me get in touch with the new body that I was experiencing every single day. Those of you who have lost 100 pounds or more can probably relate to the weird out-of-body experience you have when your body looks so different than it feels, and every single day you look in the mirror and you can't believe that that's your body. You don't know what fits you, and your body's just changing so fast your mind can't keep up with it. And I feel like Pilates was an amazing way for me to stay in touch with my body and to learn what it could do and stretch its limits. So I started out doing Pilates at the YMCA. The classes were like $20 or $25 a class, so I was doing those like once or twice a week. Then when I wanted to get more serious about it and start doing more Pilates, I joined Club Pilates. It was $179 a month, but I could do unlimited classes, and I typically did about 3 classes a week. Another big cost that was completely new to me once I started this weight loss journey was spending money on protein shakes. Altogether, I spent about $1,200 on protein shakes. I never had a protein shake in my life before I started on a GLP-1, but I knew that protein was essential, and so I had to find a protein powder that I enjoyed. So while it is more expensive than protein powder that you can purchase at the store, I enjoy this protein powder. It tastes good to me, and I have had a protein shake almost every day since August 2023. I use health code chocolate macadamia nut protein powder. It is delicious. I actually started out making my protein shake with the 30-gram nutrition plan Fairlife shakes from Costco. So I would buy those and I would mix 1 scoop of chocolate macadamia nut powder from health code with the Fairlife chocolate shake and some banana in there, and that would be my protein shake. I probably did that for the first year until I realized that I liked the taste of it with just water. And so I quit buying the Costco shakes and I just started making with water, and it's still delicious to me. But that cost really adds up because those nutrition plan shakes are like $30 at Costco. So I would buy 1 of those a month, plus the $99 every other month I would spend on the health code protein powder. I was also spending a lot more on groceries and higher quality groceries, especially protein options. I estimate that I spent about $3,000, which is about $200 a month on these higher quality groceries. I had never thought about protein a day in my life before starting a GLP-1, but I knew that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't losing muscle on this weight loss journey. My appetite was pretty suppressed right at the beginning, so I wanted to make sure that whatever I was eating was going to be fueling me in the very best way possible. So I was buying so much chicken and steak and turkey sausage and chicken sausage and ground beef, hard-boiled eggs, deli turkey. All of these protein options are probably the most expensive things that I spend money on at the grocery store, and I was buying a lot of them because I completely changed my eating habits where I was eating out 5 to 7 times a week before, and I started eating everything at home. I do have a family of 5. We homeschool. My husband works from home, so we're home all day. I'm cooking all 3 meals here at home. So I definitely increased our grocery budget to accommodate for eating these healthier meals here at home. I also spent quite a bit of money on new clothes because I went down 10 pant sizes in the time I was losing weight. I went from a size 22 to a size 2. I actually just did a video about how I was dressing my body during my weight loss journey and how I discovered thrifting. Before I discovered thrifting, I was spending way too much money on new clothes. And then even with thrifting, I was spending a good amount of money on new clothes to dress this body. It also became a different outlet for me where before I might turn to food. Now I was turning to thrifting and dressing myself and finding ways to bring out my personality with my clothes, which I think is a much healthier habit, even though it does still cost some money. But I estimate I probably spent about $2,000 on clothes during the 15 months that I was losing weight. And then the last big expense was kind of like fitness gear and gadgets and vitamins and things. So these would be things like collagen powder. I was getting biotin and a multivitamin, and then things like a little milk frother to stir up my collagen in my tea, or my personal blender to mix up my protein shakes. All of those kinds of things, I estimate that I spent about $600. So altogether, the grand total, it cost me $12,610 to lose 125 pounds in 15 months. That comes out to be about $840 a month, which honestly doesn't seem that bad. Now, before I started this medication, I wanted to see what was I spending before. I had ChatGPT help me estimate based on my eating out habits. So between fast food stops by myself or with my kids, restaurants that I was going to with my family, and then also alcohol here at home and out, I was spending close to $16,000 a year on habits that were draining my health and my wallet. But the real cost wasn't just financial. I am pretty young. I was 39 when I started on a GLP-1 medication. I also didn't struggle with obesity my entire life. I was what I like to call pleasantly overweight. I was maybe 5 to 20 pounds overweight for most of my adult life. But once I had 3 kids, turned 35, and those hormones started getting out of whack, I started putting on weight. And I was turning to food as a coping mechanism for things that were completely out of my control. I gained about 75 pounds in a single year. I tried a bunch of diets. I tried a bunch of challenges. I did intermittent fasting. I tried to count my calories in MyFitnessPal. I did Orange Theory and tried to work out enough to burn off the extra calories I was eating. And of course, none of it worked. I lost 20 to 30 pounds several times, but immediately when I stopped doing the thing that I was doing, I gained it all back. If I could have looked 15 years into the future back then, I know what I would have seen. Type 2 diabetes, back pain, joint pain, maybe heart disease. All the comorbidities that come with carrying extra weight for far too long. My health was tanking fast, and I was out of time to keep pretending that it wasn't a big deal. That's why when people talk about the cost of a GLP-1, I think about what not doing anything would have cost me instead. When people say GLP-1s are expensive, my honest answer is, it depends on what you're comparing it to. Before I started, I was already spending that money, and I wasn't getting anything in return. Now, that same budget goes toward a body that can move easily through the world anywhere I want to go. Clothes that I feel confident in, energy to be present with my kids and my family, and peace around food that I never imagined was possible. It's not just paying for a medication, it's redirecting your resources toward your future self. And then there's the cost you can't see, the opportunity cost of staying stuck. Before I lost weight, I was spending so much time in bed, napping, wasting my life. I didn't have the energy to pour into the things that I loved, into my family, my friends, my hobbies, or even my business. But that wasn't the only cost. I skipped pool days with my kids. I avoided photos. I've been an avid hobby photographer since my oldest was born, and I have so many photos of my kids, of all of us together over the years. And there is a glaring 5-year gap where I don't have any photos of our family together. I said no to trips and events because I knew I wouldn't have the stamina to keep up. Travel was stressful, airplane seats were uncomfortable, and long walks sounded exhausting. When you carry extra weight, you're not just carrying around extra pounds, you're carrying limits, and I was missing out on living my life. The cost of doing nothing isn't just measured in dollars, it's measured in experiences you'll never get to have, in memories you won't get to make, in years you can't ever get back. And gosh, my life has done a complete 180. Life now is so different than life was 2.5 years ago. Yes, I look different. I've lost 125 pounds. But what matters more than that is I have energy. I wake up every day refreshed. I can bound out of bed, ready to tackle whatever the day will bring. I get up and I walk every morning. I soak in the sunshine, say hi to my neighbors, and enjoy the beautiful world outside. I homeschool my 3 kids and I'm fully present with them and enjoying the time we have learning together. I love spending time with my husband and friends. I have hobbies like pickleball and creative pursuits like knitting and reading. amazing. And I've built this YouTube channel that's turning into a little side business, something that never could have happened before. The medication didn't just change my body. It gave me back my time, my confidence, and my ability to show up in life for what I actually want. So if you're trying to decide if a GLP-1 is worth it, here's what I'd suggest. Look honestly at your spending. Think about what you'll gain, not just what you'll lose. And plan for sustainability, because this isn't just about weight loss, it's about building a life you love enough to maintain. So yes, GLP-1s are an investment, financially and emotionally, but so is staying stuck. So was it worth it to spend over $12,000 to lose 125 pounds and change my life? You bet it was. If this helped you see the numbers and maybe yourself a little differently, I would love it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe share this video with a friend who's thinking about whether a GLP-1 is worth it for them. Thanks so much for watching.